Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stella Mayer, and I'm the Director of Alumni and Constituent Engagement here at Wilkes University. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our fifth installment in these Kernel Connections series. Kernel Connections are online webinars that are designed to bring lifelong learning opportunities to Wilkes alumni no matter where you live, so you can tune in and connect with our distinguished faculty and alumni on a variety of topics. Our other webinars we've done so far are all available on our Wilkes Alumni YouTube channel. Today's webinar is also being recorded and will be added to the channel. So if you'd like to refer to it later or share it with your friends and colleagues, we'll make sure to get that link out to you afterwards. Today's Kernels Connections is titled Helping to Create Your Financial Future. And I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Chad Lojewski from the class of 1995. Chad began his investment industry career in 1995, shortly after graduating from Wilkes University. Throughout his career, Chad has helped investors in their quest to grow and mitigate risk to their wealth by offering a full suite of services designed to diversify their investment portfolios. He has 30 years of experience as a financial advisor, and for the last 16 years has been with Stifel Financial, a publicly traded financial firm that's been around since 1890. So just a few housekeeping tips as we kick things off. Please try to remain muted throughout the webinar unless you're called on to ask a question. If you think of things as we go, feel free to go ahead and put questions into the Q&A or the chat, and we'll keep an eye on those, and then we'll make sure to get to those at the end. So thank you again for joining us today, and I will turn it over to our speaker, Chad.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thanks to those who have given a few minutes of their time today. I put my LinkedIn up on the screen. I would hope that you would connect with me, before, during, after this presentation. My team and I put out regular posts through our company, through Stifel, and we think it's very helpful just to keep in passive contact with all of our clients and prospective people who have an interest in financial services. So having done this for 30 years, I know that could be critically important, and everybody's got a social media presence these days. So this is the easiest way. And then I would also encourage you to take a look at our website, Lojewski Wealth Management Group. There's the bridge. We're just close by. And obviously being a Wilkes grad, it's wonderful to be here today. All right, so let me let you know kind of what we're looking at here today, which is going to be fairly, I think, simple. And if I can get that going to slide, we'd be in good shape here. There we go. All right. So having done this for 30 years, the objective was, as a financial advisor, to be a resource for those who need some help, advice, guidance, information, and to be able to create that system. I'm a very visual person, so the idea of putting together 3 different buckets seemed very easy for me to be able to demonstrate that to my prospective clients going back, a couple decades now. So I put together this 3-bucket planning, and why it's important, why do we establish 3 buckets, and then we could talk about what next steps and potential action items for you folks. So this will be a pretty simple and easy presentation, and then obviously encourage feedback and interaction towards the end. First, Stifel, very quickly, we're headquartered in St. Louis. We're a large firm. It's not really well known in the northeastern part of the United States, but out in the Midwest, we've been around since the late 1800s. We have over 2,300 financial advisors out there, a lot of branches. We're publicly traded under the symbol SF. So we're one of the top 10 brokerage firms out there in the U.S., and we have worldwide exposure as well. Me personally, I grew up in DuPont, so those locally, you're probably going to recognize DuPont just over the bridge from West Pittston. And been married to my wife, Carol, now for almost 28 full years, and a couple kids and a couple dogs. And I do enjoy coaching, as I mentioned earlier, and going to different types of events. Live events are key, especially since COVID. I think we can all agree. So 3 buckets. The visual is short, intermediate, and long. that's what they are. What do they mean? Let's go into some detail about what these buckets mean. The short-term bucket, as you could probably imagine, we're looking at very safe, accessible, and liquid cash. The ideal setup, as you can see there, is your savings or checking account. You want to think about your short-term bucket as being something that you can pull up to the ATM and take money out. It should cover, the rule of thumb is somewhere between 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So if your living expenses between your mortgage and your gas in your car and your food and utilities add up to $3,000 a month, then this should be somewhere in the area of 10 to 20,000 in this short-term bucket. And when we talk with our clients, when my group does and I do, these are the types of things that will help put pencil to paper. And frankly, some people do this before they meet with us and some people have not, and that's okay. So that's a short-term bucket. This is incredibly important to establishing the middle bucket though. So that's why the short-term bucket is so important. Even though it doesn't seem like a lot, it's very important. And please understand, you may not make a lot of interest in this money, but it's there in case a water heater breaks or a tire on your car happens to have a nail in the side of it and can't get fixed and you got to get a new one. Very liquid. I'm going to come back to the intermediate term bucket because most people understand the short-term bucket is easy. And the long-term bucket, you're probably already doing, especially the people on this call, because they are your 401k, your retirement accounts, your IRA, your pensions. These are long-term time horizon, 10 plus years into the future, typically, depending on how old you are, of course. But, we're looking at 59 and a half years of age or older for this bucket. So when we look at the size of the buckets, this is important, right? So the short-term bucket, small. The long-term bucket, that probably will be your largest bucket. But this intermediate bucket is so critical to when you decide to have independence and either leave your job or work part-time. So let's spend just a couple minutes on that. So that intermediate term bucket, that's probably where our wheelhouse is with our wealth management group, because now the purpose is, what are we doing here? What are the goals? We're saving for something. Is it to have independence from your job? Is it to retire early? Is it to have a passive income from these investments so that you can work less? And that time horizon then typically is going to be somewhere between that 3 to 10 year time horizon. Again, depending on your age. If you're in your 40s, but you want to retire prior to 59 and a half, then that's what we're looking at. If you're in your 30s, well, there's a lot more time to be able to build up this intermediate term bucket. And instead of it being the second largest, it could end up being the largest, which for some of our clients, that has happened over time. And this is what it gives you. The benefits are, it gives you the flexibility. It helps you save for that, dream vacation, maybe a second home, maybe a primary home in a warmer place than where you're at right now. So this middle bucket really gives you all the independence that you need to make financial decisions for you, your family, your kids, your grandkids, and potentially we're all coming across this now. Your parents are getting older. You may have to help out in some way, or God forbid, your grandparents are in that position, right? Then you have to be able to help these folks out in some cases. So this middle bucket is key. So ultimately, what we want to see is the most amount of money going into the long term that you can afford to do while still paying your bills. The short-term bucket, if you haven't established that, it's really, really key for you to put that 3 to 6 month time horizon of money in there for your immediate bills. But what happens is that the short-term bucket then establishes the savings pattern for the middle bucket. Because if this is zero when you start working with us and we build up that short-term bucket, at some point you're going to say, okay, that's enough. But you've already established the savings pattern. So now all that new money of savings goes into this middle bucket. And that's the expectation that we have when we meet with our clients is, okay, we know you're probably going to have this established and everybody accepts that. This, some people do, some people don't. but very few people understand the importance and the power of this bucket. And this is where our wheelhouse is in helping you. So so why do we need all three? Obviously, the short-term bucket we've established for emergencies, long-term bucket for retirement, that's somewhere out in the future. But that middle term, that intermediate term bucket, that just is going to give you that flexibility so that you can decide what you want to do, when you want to do it, and where you want to go, with kids, without kids, grandkids, whatever. And again, there's no one size fits all. I think that's important to note here. Your risk tolerance is going to be very important to us, whether you're aggressive, conservative, does not make a difference to us. It's very important that we're doing this based on your personal goals. And, you know, risk tolerance, I call that your sleep factor. If you're able to sleep at night, then we've got the right risk tolerance. If you are losing sleep in March and April of 2025, when the tariffs were announced and the market was going down aggressively, then that's where we're having a lot of hand-holding sessions with our clients to talk about, all right, do you have your immediate expenses covered? Is your future planning covered? Do we need to make adjustments because you're losing sleep? And we can do that. That's not an issue. We just want to make sure that everybody is in line with that. So we've talked about the steps. I don't think we need to belabor that too much, except that I will say monitoring and adjusting is critical. So when you work with us, you're going to get a financial checkup postcard a few times a year. It's going to let you know, hey, we're here. We want to talk to you if things have changed. Very similar as you would get a dentist postcard in the mail. And, we're going to stay in touch with you. And it's important that if there's any life changes that we adjust. And obviously, we're going to monitor it every day. My team and I will. So at the end of the day, we're really hoping for anyone that we come in contact with, that we become a resource to them, helping them to build these buckets of money so that they have a place to go and pull from, depending on the age and the purpose. And we have multiple strategies, risk tolerances to be able to do that. So it really just comes down to your ability to communicate and let us know, what you're looking for in particular, because everybody's goals are going to be a little bit different. With that, I'm going to stop sharing so that it'll just be my face here. And I'm happy to entertain questions, concerns, remarks. I mean, that put us at around 15 minutes. That was kind of my goal, is to keep it kind of short and sweet, and then offer some time for Q&A. So, Stella?
Could you talk a little more, Chad, about the balance between the middle bucket and the long-term bucket, particularly for new grads? Like, I think a lot of new grads are told, max out your 401k, especially if your company has a match. Put in, as much as you possibly can there. But then it comes time to say, buy a home, and everything's tied up in a 401k. So what's the appropriate balance or planning there to make sure that you have those funds for like a home purchase? Or
Yeah, that's fair. If we're looking at the different levels here, the short-term bucket, again, it's the 3 to 6 months of expenses, but specifically dealing with anybody that's a recent graduate. If the short-term goal is, hey, I want to buy a house, and we all understand that rents and mortgage expenses could almost equal each other these days. But if you're buying a home, you got to put up some money on a down payment. And depending on where you're at with your finances, you may be able to put down a few percent, 5%, 10%. I think most people understand that if you put down 20, then you don't have to pay the PMI, which is the mortgage insurance, which is definitely helpful long term. However, if you're desperate to get into a house and you can afford to only put down 5%, then that's okay. This short-term bucket should not eat up all of that, but it can eat up a large percentage of that for a short period of time, as long as you are established a good savings pattern. So if somebody's just coming out of college and making X amount of dollars, part of that X has to go into short term. if you are going to put down a down payment on a home, make an offer on a home within a short period of time, then you have to be really, really aggressive in the short-term bucket and then not as aggressive in the long-term bucket. You got a lot of time for that. So if the objective in this hypothetical is down payment on a home, be really, really aggressive in the short term. Maybe this is higher in the short term until you make that down payment and establish some monthly mortgage payments. And then you get back on track with the short term after that down payment is made. And then you can adjust your long term, your 401k. Maybe your 401k is only at a 4 or 5% contribution rate. Whatever your company is matching is typically what we would recommend you start at. So if they're matching up to 5%, well, then you put in 5 because that's free money. You definitely want that money on the match, but don't go higher than that. Mart, I'm answering maybe a little bit more, but a lot of people ask us, what is the right percentage to save? And there's a lot of different resources and footnotes that we could put out there, but ultimately somewhere between 12 and 15% is what you want to be saving. So to give you an idea, if you're putting in 5% and your company is matching 5%, well, you're already at a 10% savings rate. That's really good. That's not going to get your long-term goals met entirely, but it's a really good start. You need to get that additional savings of 12 to 15%. Your own, by the way, your own savings of 12 to 15% between these two buckets. So I hope that helps answer a little bit of the mortgage question specifically. Stella.
What other questions do we have from the group today?
I've never heard it explained about, the intermediate bucket being arguably the most important in, my several years now since I have graduated. It's always been the focus on, your 401k and really long-term savings. And so as it pertains to those long-term goals, I would love to kind of get an idea, and I know you addressed it, about, what balance should there be between those, intermediate goals and then those long-term goals? What do you think a healthy balance between those practices looks like?
Okay, so as a percentage of your savings, let's assume that you can save 10%. 5% goes, 5% of that 10% goes to your 401k, and then you have the other 5% of savings. Okay, that 5% should go into the short-term bucket until you build that up to a point where it's comfortable for that 3 to 6 months of expenses. So let's assume it's $20,000. So once you've hit the $20,000 mark, that 5% should now be going into that intermediate bucket. You've already established that you're saving 10%, 5 into long term and 5 into short term. But once that short term bucket is full, now it should flow over and into the intermediate term bucket. Now, as your income changes, your lifestyle will change as well. So you should be able to afford a 1 to 2% increase per year in your savings rate if you've established a good savings pattern. So if you're, just out of college at, your mid-20s, you might only be able to save that 10% for the first 3 to 5 years. That's okay. Then once you get into your 30s, you should be able to start to ramp that up, and that 10% becomes 12 and becomes 14. And before you know it, now you're not missing it and you're saving 20%. A lot of that 20% should now shift between intermediate and long term. There's really no more, because your short-term bucket is full. You're going to keep it full.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Extremely helpful.
Yeah. So that's what we help our clients put together, no matter what their age is. We've dealt with young entrepreneurs and professionals that are, going to become surgeons, either dentists or whatever. They're going to be entrepreneurs. It's fine. And then we've dealt with folks in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. The visual doesn't change. It's just a matter of where it is. And some people will come to us with a very large long-term bucket, and they have nothing in short or intermediate term, and they're in their mid-40s, and they're like, well, I want to retire. And I'm like, you don't have access to anything until 59 and a half. So then we have to get aggressive on short and intermediate term, and they just have never heard it before.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I look forward to working with you and continue to communicate, even if it's just by LinkedIn. Feel free to connect.
Outstanding. Yeah, I sent you a connection request, so looking
Perfect.
forward to it.
Any other questions? John, Michelle, Mike?
Yeah, I have a question. It says, what do you charge? What's your fee basis?
Yeah, that's fair, John. I would say well over 90% of our clients pay a fee, and that's typically between 1 and 1.5%. There's no commissions to buy or sell when you pay a fee. So we are on the same side of the table as you to make sure that we are participating when the market goes up and helping you with that. And then when the market goes down, we want to make sure that that tide doesn't leave us dry and leave you dry. So we want to make sure that we have a moderately conservative approach in those circumstances to be able to capture more principal and keep that principal buoyed in markets that are very volatile. And we've got specific portfolios that did that in March and April. So to answer your question specifically, though, 1 to 1.5%. There are some accounts that use alternative investments, structured products, stuff like that, that will pay a direct commission on, and then we're fully transparent if that's the case. And that typically will complement what we're doing on the fee-based side. So.
Okay.
I'm sure that's probably what you're familiar with in your experience.
Thanks, John. That's a great tie-in to maybe if you're looking to get involved with the financial planner for the first time, like when's the right point in your life to do that? Probably a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't have enough money to be managed. Like when is the right stage to talk to somebody? And then maybe what would you recommend if you're interviewing for somebody? Like what are the things you'd want to look for or ask?
Yeah, that's fair. So that's a fair question. I'm asked all the time, what's my minimum? I can invest $250 for a client. So I have a very, very small minimum. However, my commitment is from both ends. The engagement has to be that they're going to start to save. That they're not just putting in $250 every couple of months and then hoping that they're going to be, a 7-figure net worth somewhere down the road. It doesn't work like that. As an advisor and a team, we are slow and steady wins the race. So we're the turtle and not the hare. You need to get started early. The earlier you get started, the more conservative you can be. That's the reality. So it doesn't make a difference to us what risk tolerance you are, but the earlier you get started, it's easier to build exponentially and compound interest and dividends and principal using tax efficient investment strategies. So we will work with people in there. We have some clients in our portfolio that are, third generation, their grandchildren, they're in their teens, they set up Roth IRAs. So I would encourage everybody to get started as quickly as possible. And if you're working with someone now that you're just not quite sure if they're doing what, you need them to do, then just get a second opinion from us. I mean, we're very reasonable and we're all adults. We know that not everybody is going to have all the perfect answers, but and we're not going to be perfect for everybody. But we can certainly give you a different style look and a different perspective. And if you choose to do business with us, it'll be very transparent. And if not, that's okay too.
Any other questions from the audience today?
I don't have a question, just wanted to state that this has been very helpful. I've always focused on short and long-term savings and never really gave any consideration to the intermediate bucket as you've described it. So this has been very informative and something to consider now as I'm going forward. And I'll definitely connect with you on LinkedIn. So thank you for sharing this information. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Michelle. And yeah, please, let the powers that be, the Stellas of the world, so that if we could do this once every few months and get more people informed and educated, I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Any last closing thoughts then, Chad, as we wrap things up?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'd love to be able to give back to the community and especially to Wilkes. So whatever I can do going forward, do connect with me on LinkedIn or through our website, and happy to continue the conversation one-on-one.
Sounds great. Well, thank you so much for chatting with everybody today. Thank you to all of our participants for joining us. And keep your eye out for the next coming webinars. We have one next month with graduate admissions. If you have any friends, family, or yourself that are interested in continuing your education, they'll talk about what to look for in professional programs. And what else, Julia? We have a program coming up in November on recruiting as well. If you're looking to make a job change, how to work with a recruiter. So if you have other ideas for topics you'd like to see, please let us know and we'll continue to build those out.
Thank you.
All right, have a great afternoon,
Outstanding.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Julia.